Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. We've just opened the room just a couple of minutes early, so we'll start pretty much on the hour, maybe a minute afterwards to let some of the people join. In the meantime, let me just pop up a quick poll, and if you'd like to answer those questions, that'd be great. So if you fancy answering these questions, that would be good. The poll is anonymous, so you don't need to worry about your answers being shared. We'll make a comment on that as we go into the Q&A. For those people just joining, welcome to this afternoon's webinar. We're going to start in just a minute or two, just letting a few more people join the room. You should see a poll in the chat window on the right. Please take half a second or so to give us your feedback on that, and then we'll pass comment on it as we go into the question and answer session. Good afternoon to the people who've just joined us most recently. Welcome to the webinar. We're looking forward to it very much. We'll start in just a minute to let one or two more people join the room so they can join at the start. Please consider the poll question in front of you and give us your answer there if you can. The poll is anonymous, and we'll pass comment on the responses to that as we go into the Q&A session a little bit later. So it's nice starting to see some people answering the poll. Partly a bit of fun, partly to understand where you're coming from and see what's most important to you. It's always interesting to see how people around the world respond to that in slightly different ways. Okay, it's just gone past the hour now, so I would like to get started. Welcome to the webinar, A Better Way to Analyze Your IC Test Data and Understanding How Galaxy Semiconductor's Test Data Solution from NPI through to Sustaining works. This seminar introduces an IC test data analysis solution from Galaxy Semiconductor, and that enables you to make intelligent decisions to get your IC device to market on time and with the best quality and yield to maximize your margins. Now, to get us started, let me make a few brief introductions. My name is Pete Davey, and I'm a Business Development Director here at EDA Solutions. I'm going to be setting the scene for the webinar today before handing over to my colleague Henry Frankland, who's an Applications Engineer at EDA Solutions, and he's going to take you through the main capabilities of the solution. We're also very happy to be joined by Eli Scott, who joins us from the East Coast of the United States, and he's with Galaxy Semiconductor. Our company, EDA Solutions, is a specialist in IC design and test software. We're a distributor company for Galaxy Semiconductor, and our customers are IC design and test houses throughout Europe and Israel. Now, Galaxy was founded over 20 years ago, offering a rather simple but very powerful semiconductor test data viewer, which is called Examinator. That product has continually evolved into today's powerful platform, providing a bespoke but easy to use set of tools for IC test data to enable intelligent decisions to be made confidently and efficiently. Galaxy is well over 100 customers, including many familiar global semiconductor logos, including fabs such as TSMC and Global Foundries, IDMs and fabless such as Analog Devices, Cisco and NXP, and many more. Now, the Galaxy portfolio addresses test data analysis from NPI device characterization through the production ramp and then on into sustaining to monitor and control yield and quality. What I'd like to do is just summarize the four principal tools, and I'm going to start with Examinator Pro. Now, whilst it is used throughout the life cycle, it's perhaps most valuable during NPI. Examinator Pro helps to analyze masses of test data, to characterize your IC, qualify your test programs, and to adjust specification limits as you tune the yield. Now, TDR, standalone TDR, stands for Test Data Repository. It's an option for Examinator Pro and supports a database approach for test data compared to a more straightforward file-based approach. The TDR option also brings some advanced features for requirements, including corner lot, multiple test conditions, and establishing operation limits. As you move into the production ramp phase, Yieldman is valuable, providing automation tools, plus a database schema which mirrors quite closely that of STDF files. Yieldman has got all the statistical process and yield monitoring capabilities desired to optimally maintain Q&R and yield throughout production. Now, the fourth option is Patman. This is predominantly used by our customers with the absolute highest quality requirements, and it's common in fields such as automotive and medical device markets where FUSA or functional safety and sub-DPM counts are required. Now, if we look at the volume of users of Examinator of the Galaxy set, Examinator Pro is Galaxy's most common tool, and that's really the focus of today's webinar. Now, when I hand over to Henry, what he's going to show you is how the Examinator Pro tool, and you'll get a taste of how straightforward it is to load test data, to use different tools and charts to perform test characterization. You can expect to see how you can analyze test data in custom charting tools, such as the ones we're shown on the screen here. Henry's demonstration is going to illustrate just a few of the standard report templates available with Examinator Pro as he begins this journey for NPI data discovery. He's going to point out where measures such as CP, CPK, and gauge studies are easily found. He's going to illustrate specification limit tuning to optimize yield. And finally, he's going to explore some of the documentation automation capabilities. Now, during the webinar, please type into the chat window any questions you may have through the session. What we're going to do is we're going to buffer them up to the end, and at the end of the session we'll have an open Q&A, and we will do our best to answer any and all of those questions. In case you're not able to stay till the very end of this webinar is being recorded. It will be made available to you subsequently on demand, and you will get an email sometime after the event with a link to that. So with that, I would like to hand over to the session from Henry.
So this is the main Examinator Pro interface. As we can see here, we have on the right single file analysis or multiple file analysis options here. So you can analyze one file or compare multiple files or multiple sites or wafers. And on the left here, we have the same thing, but for centralized repositories. And on the center here, we have some quick access specialized reports. So I'm going to show you how you can quickly take a sort of tester file from a test house or from a tester and quickly build your reports. So here we just drag and drop our report into the Examinator interface. It takes us into the data section where we can add more files, or we can just go with this one. We're just going to go with this one. And we got our web report setup interface, but we're going to build a default report. So quickly build a default report. So in a few clicks, you can see it has built our reports. The little blue bar indicates the progress, so it's now complete. It completes this operation very quickly on quite large data sets. So we can now just pop into the binning. We can see our binning reports. We can see here for our software and hardware bins, the 85% of our parts were in this bin, and the total part count. We can also see the summary of all parts in the pass bin and in the failing bin. So we can see we've got 14.9% of the parts there, which creates 241 parts, and the same thing for the hardware bin. So we can also now go back to reports, and we can select Pareto. So Pareto reports, these customized reports allow you to see the CP, CPK, and test failure Paretos. So let's have a look at test 1170, maybe be of interest, where we have our test number, test name, which failing bin it was put into, the failures counts. So we have 18 parts that failed, its contribution to the overall yield loss of the test data we're analyzing, the fail contribution, so how much, so 7.5% of the total failures. And we also can see the failure rate for this test. Now, these graphs, these tables are very interactive. We can now see the statistics behind this particular failure. Let's go, for example, 1170. So here we can see 1170 here, and we can see the sort of low limits, the high limits, the mean, the statistical mean, sigma, CP, CPKs, and yields, the part failure count here. This is not an exhaustive list. You can customize it to add more information. You can see here in different colors, in red or orange, the hard fail and the light fail of the CPK. You can change it to whatever you want at a different stage, but you can see very quickly what tests are problematic within the statistical table. So we can then investigate this further, see the histograms that resulted in these statistics. So let's go into this, so 1170. So we can see our histogram reports in this list here for different tests. And it's taking us to the test we selected. So we can statistics and the actual histogram. We can go, right, let's investigate this further. So let's go into the Data Explorer. So here we have the interactive Data Explorer. So just to show you where this is on the main report page. So we were here, went to the test statistics, went to the histogram report, and now we're in the charts. Right, so this interactive histogram, you can add markers on visuals, and we can also check our dynamic statistics. We can change how this data is plotted, and so we can change it from test limits to over test results or both. And we can have the cumulative options of these. We go both. We can also navigate around our histogram. We can pan, we can zoom in on particular data. We can restart our view. Now, what we can do also is we can sort of start interacting with our data. We can start trimming out, let's say, outliers, which we don't want to consider in our statistics. So let's go and do that. We can remove lower than. We can then see that changes. We can then remove greater than, and we can see from where we selected, removes those, and you see statistical changes. We can also, from this page, we can also navigate to different graphs from here. We can choose a particular graph of interest or histogram. So let's choose a particular test. Let's say we're interested in 41410. We can choose here, or we can just select it from here. Okay, so here we have a bimodal distribution. Now we may want to analyze this data in different graphs. We can quickly do that from here. So we have a trend graph. You can see how it responds. We can also stick some spots on there. We can see sort of individual data points. We can also do a probability plot. We can do a correlation. We can see how it correlates to other tests. So 1410 with 1010 there. We can also do box plots. So again, that's good. And we can also see multi-charts and the tables that produce that data. So back to charts. So let's say we're interested in the trend chart here. We want to see where are the parts on this wafer which resulted in a value greater than, say, 13. So we can right click here. We can sort of drill down and investigate this. So it's greater than 13.54. So that's where we clicked in the x-axis. Let's make that exactly 13. Okay, so it takes us to the interactive wafer map. From here, we can see for this test, the max and min and mean heat map. We can use these limits here to sort of increase the lower limit to see how to crop or sort of filter out the parts that are within these two limits. We can do the same thing in the top limit. We can also change how the data is, the heat map's done. So you can do it over test limits. We can also say this part is of interest. We can select this part and investigate it further, so we can see all the tests for this part, not just the 1410. And we can navigate to different parts from this list here. Okay, so going back to reports. With the wafer report, we can also do wafer map reports. So this is a 2D report that, in this case, has software bins. We can see all our past binnings and where they were on the wafer, and we can see all our fallout bins and where they're on the wafer, and the colors indicate which bin they are on the wafer. You can also see some bold highlighting. Bold indicates a retest, so you can see which sort of parts are retested on this in this particular data set. Okay, and if you need to, you can get back to the interactive view from here. So you can see the interactive wafer and the binned parts, and this is the same interactive wafer we saw earlier for the tests. So you can see here, this is test 1650, and then this is the additional sort of wafer bin so interactive. Okay, right, so go back to reports. So the next interesting thing I want to show you, which allows you to very quickly define limits or tune limits, is the what if. So this is an ability to virtually adjust your limits and see what happens. So let's take a particular statistical point of interest. So let's say 1170 is of interest. Let's go increase this to say 3.5, and then change this to 9.5. Click out of there. You can see we have our if. So if we change these limits in yellow, and then we can calculate. Okay, so once it's done in green, we have then these new statistical values. We got new values for CP, CPK, and yield, and CR. So look to the right, we can see that compared to our original data, that it's increased the yield by 0.69%. And if it went the other way, it will be in red for a negative yield. And we can actually investigate this further. We can see what this looks like on the histograms that we have. So this test, we can see, so styles, and then go markers. We can insert our new markers. So we can see our new high limit, and our new lower limit, and our old high limit, and our old low limit. So you can see that we've increased the high limit past the sort of the upper points or the upper parts of this test. So we've increased the yield. Okay, so then we can go back into the test. So we can then export that to the limits to the tester. You can then give that to the testing house or tester and redo the test with different limits. What we can do is actually suggest new limits globally for all these tests. So if we go to here, we can see a way of defining the limits depending on certain statistical sort of algorithms. So we've got the medium sigma space. The limits is x of original space. We reach a fixed CP or CPK or high enough CP, CPK. So let's choose let's try and get a fixed target CP. Let's say we want to have 1.5. When we go OK, we get our if statement, so it's made that adjustment. Now what we need to do is calculate our new values. So if those limits are chosen, we then get these values. So we can see how this performs. We can see our new yields. We can see very quickly which yields have changed with the deltas. We've got a negative yield, positive yield, negative, and you may want to then go individually adjust the negative ones to better fit the data, or we may be happy with those. And then you can submit to the test house for when the wafer is retested or for future tests. So this can help you redefine your limits for your wafer or for your parts. Okay, so that's great. So if we go over now reports, now this is the interactive reports, but what you may want to do is generate more of a PDF static report for documentation or for informing colleagues. So we can have a different reports, Word reports, PowerPoint slides, PDF documents. You can select Save PDF document, select the particular limits you want to use. So we're going to go back to standard limits only. You can, if you only want to show certain test results, you can change what data we're operating on. You may don't want to include everything in a final report. So you can have failing tests only, tests with data cleaning, certain tests. So if you have a test list, for example, it'll give you a pick list for choosing specific tests. Now, we're going to go for all tests. Now, if you go to the wafer map options, this is the wafer map report. So what sort of report you want to get. So we have software binning, hardware binning, parametric tests over limits, over test results. We have also functional parametric tests, pass and fails, and many more for stacked wafers and zonal maps. So we're going to go for software binning in our case. We can also change how, from this page, how we want our histograms to be displayed. So the default is chart of test limits, but we can change that to chart of test results. So we are adaptive data and limits. That's one we saw earlier, where we saw all the data. We can then say we don't actually want to see all the histograms, so we can refine that down. So we can say we're only interested in 1170, 1410, and test 1136. And if required, we can also then define some additional reports, some special reports like a gauge R&R, maybe a Pearson's correlation report, or a shift report here. But we're going to go for this for the default. And we can then save these reports for later use, and then open them, load them in, and build them. So you don't have to continuously readjust the settings that you've just configured. So let's go build that report. Okay, yep. Okay, so now we have our report. As you can see here, we've got a custom logo. So you can customize these reports home pages. We've got hyperlinked sections, let's say for histograms. So here we can see our tests. So 1136, 1170, 1410, and then that's because we chose only these tests, it only shows these ones, and we get into straight away the CP, CPKs, and all the other test data we saw earlier. So go back to the top. You can also see our test statistics here as well for all our tests. Okay, well, that is what I wanted to show you today. So thank you for your time, and yeah, back to you, Pete.
Thank you very much, Henry. So we've got a couple of slides, quick slides before we go into the Q&A. I've seen 1 or 2 questions pop up in the chat window, so you've got a few moments to think of your questions and pop them in there. Just to wrap up, to get the Q&A quickly, I'll keep my summary short. Examinator Pro, it's industry proven with hundreds of users. They use it to intelligently understand, forecast, automate, and make critical quality and reliability decisions, all safe in the knowledge that the platform is really bespoke, custom for semiconductor test data. Now, it is available for you to try today. If you'd like to do that, go to our webpage. The URL is up on the screen at the moment, but remember edasolutions.com and you should be able to find it. And then click on the button about halfway down the page to say, can I have an evaluation? We'll get you the software, get you up and running quickly. There's also a great web portal. I've shown a picture on the right with some great getting started videos. And of course, people like Henry and Eli would be available to, at the end of an email, to ask any questions, answer any questions you might have as you go through that. Now, let me get to our virtual meeting room, and can I ask Henry and Eli if you'd perhaps join the screen. Hopefully you can do that auto-magically. Let's give you a minute. Eli is joining. Excellent. Welcome there, Eli.
Hey guys.
And the main man, Henry himself. Thank you very much for joining. So I do have some questions. I'll start and go through those. Please, if you've got any other questions, pop them up in the chat window. The first one I've got is from someone called Sylvie. It says, does the what if tool affect other reports in Examinator Pro like Pareto stuff? And perhaps Henry, you'd like to take that
So
one.
you'll get a what if calculation. So when you enter those reports, there'll be a line for what if. So in your Pareto or your binning, you see the what if bit sort of binning of that, the result. So yeah, it does affect.
Cool. Hope that answers your question, Sylvie. Eli, let me give you this one. This is from someone called Christian. And how do you customize CPK or yield alarms?
So we actually had in our options tab, there's a way to customize the warning and alarm levels. So the yellow and red tabs in the statistics table, you're actually able to go in there and enter the value for CP or CPK or yield so that you can, when you generate your report, or you can focus on those specific areas.
Okay, and actually, Eli, I'll just ask the question. We got a few people who filled in the poll right at the very beginning, which asked which of your customers ask these things the most often, and about 3/4 of the people were saying device performance monitoring was most important, followed by process capability. Is that typically what you sort of see with customers around the world, or is anything slightly different?
Yeah, so each of these items that we have in the poll are areas that we're considering for enhancement. And that device performance monitoring is actually one that we are focusing on right now. So it kind of aligns with what we expect.
Okay, cool. Henry, let me bring you back in. Question from Tobias. Can you add multiple tests
Yes,
to one
yes, you
plot?
can add. So the box plot section, we only saw one of them. But with we're using the picker tool, you can very quickly add, let's say, multiple box plots, and you would typically see that, say, if you're doing a gauge study as well, or just comparing two tests against each other, you can plot them on one view.
Cool. Thanks, Henry. Next question is from, and I hope I pronounced this right, Braulio. So apologies if I've messed up your name, but Braulio, you asked the question, can you view more than one set of what-if limits in the histograms? Do you want to take that, Eli? Perhaps we'll bounce between the two of you.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple of different ways to do that. So there's a drop down in the histogram. You can actually go and click and select the what if limits. But you also have the option in the markers tab. You can select or deselect the different sets of limits that you've created as you're going through the what if process.
Cool. So we've got a couple of questions left on my screen in front of me. So if you have got a question, now would be a good time to pop it in there. So this question's from Don, and for future reports, can I quickly remap a tester file with the new limits from what if?
Sorry,
bring that one
repeat
over
that
to
again.
you, Henry.
Yeah.
For future reports, can I quickly remap a tester file with the new limits?
So yes, you can
take.
So the what if, there's an option in there where you can export a mapping file, which then you can put on the data insertion section. So that's when I dragged and dropped the file in. You saw the file there at the beginning. You can double click on that or go to the properties, and then you can specify sort of the new limits. So you can overwrite the limits or override them. You can override them for future tester files. You don't have to do it manually again. You can just apply it there.
Cool. And we just got one last question. So I will, Eli, since you've joined us from the East Coast, I'll give you the pleasure of the last words. Is it possible to export a wafer map from an STDF? And that's from Khalid.
Absolutely. So we offer a variety of different industry formats that you can export directly from the wafer map section.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you very much for taking those questions, Eli and Henry. To everyone who's joined, that pretty much wraps us up, and it's pretty much on the half hour. So I hope today has been valuable for you. And please, if you've got further questions, often these questions come to you later on, don't hesitate to drop me an email address on the screen in front of you. And since Henry and Eli are much better equipped to answer these questions than myself, I'll probably forward it on to you, but we will get back to you as quick as possible. As I say, today's webinar will be available on demand, so if you'd like to review anything or share it with some of your colleagues, please do that. And if you've got any general questions, then please come to us. So with that, I don't know if you've got any last points that you'd like to make, Henry or Eli?
No, just Examinators, one-stop shop for all your test solution needs. So
Yeah,
please
and
let us know if
thank
you
you
have
for
any
your time
questions.
for listening and watching.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to talking to you in the future. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.